On the road again. I can't wait to get off the road again.
Welcome to the podcast. Got a theme song at last. Even got a guy to play his guitar. Now I need to come up with the words to sum up what the show is about, and I'm stuck. What a predicament.
Episode 25, we always loved the sad songs. I'm Alex Bain, and this is What a Predicament, the podcast with a predilection for probing pesky predicaments of the modern day and age. And sorry if I don't have the usual high energy and charisma you're accustomed to with my podcast presenting, but somewhere between falling down an Antarctic crevasse back in episode 1 and my current predicament, cased inside volcanic rock, being carted away in the back of some truck for presumably whatever manufacturing process such rocks normally go through, I've become a little disheartened. And seeing as I can't even move my arms, I can't even throw on some appropriately sad music to wallow in. It's hard enough just to record and upload the podcast. I do love a good sad song though. And I don't think I'm alone. The numbers speak for themselves. Last year, the number one song in Britain was in a minor key for 45 out of 52 weeks. Don't know what a minor key is, or why so many seem to be into such sorrowful songs? Today, I'm joined by a couple of guest co-hosts to talk tearjerkers. Tim Law is a musician based in Auckland. He writes and performs as one half of the band No Sunrise, to name but one. Tim, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
Chelsea Prestiti is a musician with an honours degree in jazz vocals from Auckland University, where she now also teaches. She plays regularly around town with her groups Leader's Dream and Skeeler. Hello, Chelsea.
What's up?
So, are you guys as into sad music as me and the British?
Yes, I love sad songs. I love all songs, but sad songs are very helpful. Yep.
I know both of your music spans many genres and sounds. Have either of you written anything you could consider like a really sad song? You
Yeah.
tried to actually approach it yourself?
So many. I'm such a sad girl. Yes, millions of sad songs.
Like, what would go into writing a sad song as opposed to any other song?
Do you wanna try this one, Tim, and then I?
Oh, no, you go ahead first. You've got
Sure?
an idea off the top of your head. I can see it.
All right. Well, what goes into writing a sad song is, one, you have to have had something sad happen to you, or you have to pretend that something sad happened to you. But I have not had to pretend like most people. So I think I guess it's the same protocol as writing any song. You have to work out what it exactly is that you want to say, and then you try and put that in lyric form. But oftentimes melody comes to me first, and then or melody with one hook idea, and then the rest of the song will unfold from there, based on kind of more conscious effort rather than just the random inspiration that happens in the moment at the time. Yeah, so that's kind of how it happens. Yeah.
I only write excessively happy music, so I'm not sure I can help here.
In the band No Sunrise
Yeah,
is known
just
for
evokes-
their positive
yeah.
outlook in life.
I reckon it's because you can write music from a completely
Analytical.
yeah,
cold.
yeah, there's no instant inspiration or but I reckon most songs come out of this one moment where you're in a kind of a random mindless flow state, and then something will come to you, and it's one fucking hook or one line or something, and then the rest of what comes out of there is the conscious I have to come up with something else, and then I have to come up with something else and something else. So
Yeah,
I
a
reckon-
lot of people say that,
Yeah.
but I think I must be not a normal musician, because I never have that moment of inspiration. I have to force
You have
myself to do it.
But that's all right. I reckon that's dope. So many there's no right way to write.
Yeah,
is
I guess
there?
so,
You
yeah.
know, anyone who's saying that is bull.
Yeah. And all throughout my 20s, I was
ass.
always waiting for that inspiration. I was like, no, I'm just not inspired this week, so you don't write. And it's like, fuck it, you don't have to be inspired. You just do it anyway.
Exactly. And most of it is like that. And then also I look at it like archaeology. It's the little moment of inspiration that, whether you have it or not, it's like having a little bone that you find
Yeah.
that's stuck out of the ground, and the rest of the song is you fucking uncovering the rest of it and
Yeah.
doing all of this very conscious work
Yeah.
to figure it out,
Wasn't that like a quote Michelangelo or someone said that about making a statue where he starts with a big block of marble and then just chips away everything that isn't the statue inside.
Well, that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, to me, music is kind of like sculpture because in this modern day and age, it's for very cheap. You can have access to pretty much any sound you want within a laptop. So you really have to make a specific choice. What kind of music do I want to make here? And sometimes I fail at being selective and I'll end up with multiple genres in a song. But ultimately, the sculpture is what you're choosing not to do is way more important than what you're actually doing.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's all sort of a new world to me. Like, I wouldn't know you're talking about the seventh note of something. Like, I like, how can just one note sound sad when another note sounds happy? Like, how does music work?
Do you want to try this one?
Well, I think
What's your take on this?
I don't think there's any consensus on this, and I think part of it is your upbringing and the music you were exposed to when you were young, and part of it is the society we live in. So we live in a Western world where you have Western tonality, which is 12 notes in an octave. There's nothing inherently correct about 12 notes in an octave. It's just what we're all used to.
Yeah.
So a minor key is whether or not there's actually anything scientific behind it, I don't know, but I think it's quite arbitrary, and perhaps it's just something we've learned. We've heard sad songs and have associated them with a minor key.
Well, you sort of mentioned, we have a certain preconceived idea, maybe culturally, because of we have Western melodies, and there are melodies from all sorts of cultures. But apparently, there are universal things that are cross culture, from the most far-flung village to someone raised in metropolitan area, where everyone recognizes the same thing as being sad. Like, there was a study, Johnstone professor of psychology Steven Pinker, he was saying it's just like how babies will automatically dance when you put music on, you put a beat on, they'll automatically start bobbing up and down. They didn't learn that. No one had to train them. Hey, when music comes on, you do this. There are very instinctive things that we've kind of adapted to for reasons that we can speculate later. But they were talking about a study they did where I think it was done in New York and then somewhere in Cambodia, and they were given the same things where it was like rating, basically in a very condensed explanation. Here is some music. Do you point at the happy face, the sad face, the angry face? And it was nearly exactly the same results for everything, given exactly the same stuff to assess. The most easy thing to hold up as an example of what is sad is, I guess, a major chord versus a minor chord. You guys seem to know how chords work. What's the difference between the two? Because I know it's only like one note within a chord changes or something. What's the actual...
Okay, well, I mean, with chords, like, you have to remember that everything... I reckon you have to remember that everything is like... has to be looked at within context of the last chord that came and then the chord that comes after it. So, but also like, because if you look at a chord within a vacuum, and if you've just got one chord, like, I mean, for example, like if I was to like use a musical example, something like Fela Kuti's music, for example, he uses like one long chord riff that just goes on and on and on, and like they'll either be major or minor, and then the reason I reckon that major and minor like work so well that way is because the interval structure, this is getting really theoretical, the interval structure that a major or a minor chord contains, so minor being 1 minor third, fifth, minor 7, if you've got ba-da-da-da, it's like that collection of intervals for some reason gives the listener a feeling of like it doesn't need to go anywhere else. Like you can start a chord progression there and then have different chords like come after it and then lead back to that chord, and same with a major chord. But at the end of the day, like you can feel like you can just sit there as well, and so you don't even need to have any other type of movement. You can just have this one kind of like resting chord that just goes on for ages and ages and ages and is just in a vamp. What was the question again?
I don't know. Can a major chord ever sound sad, depending
Yes.
on the context around it?
Yes, it can, because it also depends on the lyrics and the tempo. So, like the main, I reckon I had to think about this, and like I reckon the main components for something being sad to a person would be one, like personal experience, of course, and how they relate to the lyrics that are in a song, but then also the tempo is a big thing. Like I reckon tempo and how. If you've got a fast tempo, even if you're in a minor key, that song won't necessarily feel sad in a conventional sense to the listener. Like I was listening to an R&B song on the way, and it was like at a kind of like a nice, like sort of even dance tempo, but the song was in a minor key, and even the content was kind of like a bit, I guess, sad. Like she had found out her boy was cheating on her, and blah blah blah. It was LMI. She Don't. It's a good song. Anyway, though, I don't necessarily feel sad at all when I hear that song. I sort of feel more like, I can feel that she's angry and she's got some sass, and she's just kind of, like, so it doesn't have like it's in a minor key, but it doesn't necessarily have like that actual like heavy, sad emotion that something like Adele would have. And then Adele's songs aren't always in a minor key either. They're in major keys too. Like I'm pretty sure Someone Like You is in a major key because it resolves to a major chord at the end of the progression. So yeah, it depends
There's heaps
on
of
that.
examples where minor and major isn't always sad and happy. Like what's another Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, minor key.
Totally, but
Yeah.
people love that shit.
Yeah.
They're like, happy when they hear it because it's like about staying alive, isn't it?
Yeah. Or what about Everybody Hurts by R.E.M., major key.
Is
But
it?
yeah.
But super sad.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
But that's the tempo thing. It's
Yeah.
really slow. It's glacial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Tom Jones's, it's not unusual to feel love. I mean, super, super, super happy, terribly sad lyrics. Like,
Right,
I want to
yeah.
die. But no one notices those lyrics because the tempo is fast and the major key is happy. So, like, if you have, I think if you have slower tempo and sad lyrics, then it's going to make a sad song, even if it's in a major key. But if you've got a major key and it's, like, slow and it has sad lyrics, then you're going to... it kind of works that way, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best way to demonstrate tempo being having an effect on the emotion. I haven't actually tried this, so it may not work, but do you want to do some singing
Yes,
examples for us?
I would love to.
Okay, so Somewhere Over the Rainbow, sing it really slowly.
Okay. Oh God, what's the key? Somewhere, yeah. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Okay, that's all. That's all.
Now
I got.
sing that at Blink-182 tempo.
Yeah. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. I phrased that way too much. That was hilarious.
Just added a
What
beat.
a
Big deal.
disaster.
This is exactly the same notes, exactly the same lyrics.
All the same stuff, and yet very
But
different
tempo
energy.
just says
That was
so
a
much
very
of
good
the feel.
experiment. Sorry, I've talked
I
over
didn't know
you.
if that was going to work, but
Yeah, no. That's really, really astute. I like that.
I'm sure there's some law about being able to use intellectual property for the sake of review or
fair
criticism.
use.
I mean, we could use. I
Just
don't
censor it
mind.
out.
Yeah, we could do
That's
the same.
just going to be a 30-second tone.
You could do that. I mean, I think who wrote Somewhere Over the Rainbow? Is that?
I think it might be public domain, isn't it?
It's probably
We'll
public
Google
domain now.
Or I'll
Yeah.
just put this episode in a vault until 100 years have passed and it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I have this theory from teaching ear training for a long time, and the way I describe these different chords or these different musical shapes that have minor or major thirds in them, which give this quality of major being happy or minor being sad, is that I reckon that really if you take away all of the emotional associations that we've put on these sounds, what you are left with is either a feeling of tension in the body or like a feeling of tense energy or a feeling of relaxed like kind of resolved energy, and that's why the chords that are a part of major and minor, as it like all those types of chords, are resolve chords. Whenever we write, and they are the key center, and then when the chord progression resolves to the end, it's always on that feeling of either a major chord or a minor chord, depending on whether it's in a major or minor key. So like if I was to sing you, maybe I'll just try singing it, but if I sung you a major chord, ba-da-da-da, and I change it to a minor chord, da-da-da. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a couple of different tonalities. In fact, I'll introduce diminished, which is like another type of chord which has a lot of tension in it due to the intervals and the qualities that are in there. So this is a diminished, I think this is a fully diminished arpeggio. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That particular, sorry, I've inhaled on my my beer. That particular tonality contains, for most people, it like a tension, and it's because of the interval of da 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 da. That interval and that particular frequency for some reason, and we can't explain why, but we do know what it does to the body and the people who are listening to it. It just makes people feel tense as. In fact, in the medieval, or in the times when there was like Gregorian chanting and shit like that, just like a long time ago, in those medieval times, the church had like the run of music, and so it banned that interval entirely because they believed it brought the devil into the church. And so the reaction emotionally to that particular interval, da 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 da, like all of those years ago, it still had the same effect on a group of people, and that was, this feels bad, let's not play it. And that to me is fascinating, because it denotes that certain intervals will give you that tension and certain intervals won't. And that's why I think, if we bring it back to like sad songs, minor keys, or a minor chord in particular, like it feels like kind of what you feel like when you've got depression. You don't feel like tense and like you want to move anywhere. You just feel sad, and then you just want to sit there and do nothing. And that's kind of what minor does in a way. So it might be good actually, like now that I've got this melodica out in front of me, what I'll do is I'll just play you I'll play the peeps out there, a few intervals, and just show like how some of them. It's going to sound really funny because it's on a melodica, which isn't the best instrument.
It is the best instrument.
It's the best instrument, right? Yeah. But if I play
at the Insties, the Instrument Awards of 2018.
It's wonderfully naff sounding. So what I'm going to do is I'll play a semitone first, which is what we were just talking about, and this is the really tension-inducing one, and it should be pretty obvious straight away how that feels when you hear it. So much tension in that one. And then if we move out to a tone, still quite a lot of tension. So those are interval notes that are really close together. Like if you were to see them on the piano, they would be very, very, very close together indeed. But if we play now a perfect fifth, it feels interesting, but it doesn't feel tense. And here's a perfect fourth. And if we play a major third with a perfect fifth, you get this major triad. So we've got a major chord here for y'all coming up here. Here we go.
Oh, that feels better.
Lovely. Doesn't feel tense at all. However, what if I make I'm going to construct a sharp 4, which is that the devil's interval, the one that got banned. Here's this one here. Because it has the sharp 4 in it, which is here. And then there's the minor third here. Now, if I move the tritone and I give a perfect fifth and a minor third, we get the minor chord, which again doesn't have that feeling of tension that this one gives you. That one is just terrifying to everyone. but yeah, I don't know, like, it just depends on what intervals are in there. So this is getting super theoretical, eh? It's hilarious. Yeah.
I guess the intervals, which I am guessing is the different notes within a chord that make up a chord.
Yes, yes. Intervals make up all parts of music. They're like the atoms of music. If you look at it that way, it makes a lot of sense, I reckon.
It just means a space between two notes.
Exactly. Rhythmically or harmonically. So harmonically is meaning the pitches, and rhythmically, of course, means the beats. Yeah.
Because, of course, that can be used to not just happy and sad, but induce laughter as well.
Yes.
Like, music can be funny. And I guess it's the same way as most jokes where something is set up in a certain way and then you pull the rug out of them.
Yep.
I know this might be hard to riff, but what would be an example of like a funny melody?
Oh, like, I mean...
Like, I guess something like dun 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 or something where it's instinctively funny because it just...
You got any ideas for this? I've got something, but I'm not really quite sure if it's the right...
I mean, you could just do a major scale ending on an augmented fourth.
Do you want to have a go?
Sure.
Here, I haven't got cooties. Try it out.
This humour may not translate, but let's find out.
We're going to try it.
Niche humour.
Oh, yeah. No, I see what you mean. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Or like, if you're in the context of a humorous comedy, for example, then a diminished chord will signify that something funny but unexpected and not great for the characters is going to happen. However, if you were in like, this is going to sound really funny, I think about this episode all the time, like, you know the Lost series? Mm-hmm. They had
My field of expertise. Let's
it's
talk
a
about this.
brilliant
Yeah.
series, especially the part with the polar bear show up. Like, what the hell was happening
That was
there?
explained in the epilogue. We'll talk about that later.
Really?
Yeah, there's an episode after the final episode which explains the polar bears.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Please tell me. Anyway, I remember watching that series and hearing a lot of diminished in the brass. And now this series is a very serious, surprisingly serious one, and so in that context, the diminished chord of this, but really low down. Oh god, I have to do it in a different key, which I'm really bad at. I suck at piano. I suck at all keys things. It was always like really, really low brass, and they're always playing these kind of, you know, diminished-y sounds because the plane was crashing and terrible things were happening. And so, yeah, for some reason we've really learnt to associate that tense, diminished feeling with danger, and yet, contextually, it can be very humorous. And it's very humorous on a melodica anyway, so this is not the best instrument.
I've got another Lost-related musical example.
Brilliant.
Can I borrow the melodica again?
Yes, please.
So you may recall the main theme from Lost. Whenever there's an emotional moment
Oh my
happening.
god, I'm so excited about
You ready
this.
for it?
Yes.
How's it? Yeah.
That's totally the theme.
That's all I know. I don't know where
No,
it is from
that's-
there. But
I
that's in a
remember
major key. First chord's major, but then it just goes to the chord 3.
Yeah.
And there you go. Like possibly the saddest chord progression, the saddest 2 chords I think you can come up with.
It is.
And it's in a major key.
Yeah. Just that one movement.
You're just moving
of
that one note.
On the topic of TV shows, do you think music is different to, say, a dramatic TV show or a sad movie, in the same way that people go to these things for the same kind of release? Like, because even comedies tend to have sad episodes. Like, there'll be one sad episode, like, you know, from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh yeah, where his uncle has a heart attack, right?
The after school special, right?
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, or even something
Like
like
Home Improvement when they have the drugs episode. And they
yeah,
find
or like
weed. And
yeah,
the
the kid gets
heavens.
cancer, doesn't he? And Home Improvement, I think one of the
He does actually.
Oh my
so
god,
extreme.
that's so
one of the
heavy.
kids gets cancer, and you know, even
shit.
South Park had that You're Getting Older episode where he's just like, oh no, I'm outgrowing all my childhood pleasures and stuff, and it's like this, and they play Fleetwood Mac, and it's like this real.
Yes.
I think I do agree, though. I think people are attracted to negatives, and I don't know what it is. Like, for example, if you have a great day, hanging out with friends, having a good day, have some delicious lunch, and then you lose $20, you're going to be thinking about you lost $20, and when you tell someone about your day, I lost $20 today, you know. So there's something about the negative that we focus on. I don't know if it's evolutionary, where we focus on the negative because we want to fix it, because that gives us an evolutionary advantage where we fix the things that are wrong.
That's a really interesting point. And I think you might be onto something as well, because I reckon that seems to be what happens in the news as well. Like I have one like happy story, but
one
generally,
happy story at the
it's
end,
all
and
very
everything
negative.
else is just all the bad shit.
It's like, I guess
Yeah.
it's because we sort of need to know instantly. Like it's sort of like an immediacy thing. Like if there's something wrong that's going, it needs to be at the forefront of our brains, like you said, because something needs to be resolved or something needs to be fixed. Even if it's impossible to do that for some reason, it's just like our brains just need to have that there. Yeah. Thanks, brains. Yeah. But like, I guess from like a singer's angle, wankiest sentence ever. Like I think people do find on like a social level, people I reckon find sad songs really cathartic simply because it makes them feel less alone with the experience that they've had. That's what I found with myself personally, listening to sad songs or songs that relate to me on an experience level.
Well, that's kind of the role of the artist in a way in society. It's to express feelings or thoughts in a way that an average Joe or a non-talented artist might not be able to. Like, you hear a really powerful song or a really moving film or documentary, and it connects with you so emotionally, and you're like, yes, that's what I was feeling, but could never put into words. I didn't know how to say it, but god damn if they didn't just capture exactly what was deep down in my soul.
That's a great observation.
And I feel that way because I don't write lyrics often, and every now and then I'll just hear a simple lyric, and I was like, how the hell did I not think of that? So yeah, I think there is some validity in that.
Fully.
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff we were saying just before has been backed up. Like your idea about there's a thing called that psychologist Adrian North from Curtin University and Straya says one way we feel better about ourselves is if we have some perspective and focus on someone who's doing even worse, which is a process known as downward social comparison. Like it makes you actually feel good to listen to a really sad song because you're like, everything's being okay because at least I'm not as sad as Elliott Smith.
That's how I feel when I read Harry Potter. I'm like, man, I know my life's shit, but at least I'm not like friggin' being chased by dragons and like under the thumb of Umbridge. And
another hypothesis from social psychology is that when people listen to music that's really sad, because you actually feel pleasure, or at least I do, listening to a really sad song. You get this wave of like the same way as, I don't know, seeing a beautiful sunset or something. Like it's almost like a sense of beauty. And some scientists think it's linked to the hormone prolactin, which is a chemical that helps curb grief. Almost like, I guess, in the same way where if you injure yourself, your body will start sending adrenaline or whatever to sort of alleviate the pain. And so when you hear this really sad music, you're dragged down, but then you don't have the actual real pain of the emotion, so that when the song's gone, you're left with this sort of comforting
just the high
chemical
that
gets released, but without the actual, having to deal with the loss of a family member or someone.
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
It does bring me to my other question was, it's sort of on the same topic. Why do you think people are so drawn to melancholy media? Because do you think it would have anything to do with the fact that, we're all going to die and continue to accumulate regrets and lose our health and lose our loved ones until eventually we too vanish from existence?
Holy shit, man. Way to bring it home.
But that calls into questions of what happens when we die, and there's certainly no consensus on that. And given that at least half of the world thinks that there is an afterlife, surely death shouldn't be that depressing. So that doesn't explain why that half of the world is still attracted to.
I had a thought just before in pertaining to the why people are drawn to the sad songs in a social sense, and that is like, what was the question actually? Can you articulate the question one more time?
Oh, yeah, kind of. I guess it was, is sad music inherently more honest in a way? Because an objective look at reality would be like, oh, it's a tragedy.
That's a very interesting thought. Yeah. I reckon and this does actually go for happy songs too, but I think again it's like about that thing that we were talking about where it feels like a sad topic or a topic that's like it's more pertinent, and so therefore it needs more attention immediately. And I reckon one thing that people seem to really benefit from is storytelling and having whatever event that you've gone through put into a story and a narrative, which kind of speaks to this this romantic center that human beings seem to have of mythologizing things and creating things creating stories that then are just turned into these pieces of art, which are, you can kind of look at it and go, oh, well, even if I feel sad right now, at least I've made something, or at least something out there has been made that describes this and is as something that I can just look at. And I reckon like sad songs are like a very, very popular topic for this, because some people I feel deal with their pain better when they've put it into a story for themselves. I certainly do. Humans love stories. That's like one of the things that I think we have maybe created on this planet, at least, is the idea of a story and a narrative. And so, yeah, like songs do that. They literally, lyrical songs anyway, make it. Oh, even classical songs or songs about, or just instrumental songs, they still have like some form of like, yeah.
You can still interpret something from them. They still evoke images
Yes,
and evoke feelings.
exactly.
And evoke a narrative from, the sad part to the happy part.
Exactly.
As a simple example.
Yeah.
This
exactly.
is just speculation, but do you think it could even be, an inherited trait evolutionarily, like for sitting around the campfire being told a story that's a fable for don't touch fire or whatever.
Yeah.
The people who could understand and connect with a story survived, and those that didn't pass on their DNA. So
Right.
somehow we've evolved to feel connected to storytelling.
Dude, that's
perhaps.
so deep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mind is like blown right now.
So we're like,
Yes.
does that mean we're all learning our life lessons from Rihanna nowadays? Because it's like, we're not being taught not to touch fire. We're being taught. What did I learn from Rihanna?
Don't touch Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy, actually, though.
Yeah.
Seriously. Anyone who supports that man, don't do that. Just don't do that. He's disgusting.
Well, that's the crazy thing about, talking about the idea of being raised by music. Music nowadays is so ubiquitous. You listening to this now, other than the What a Predicament theme song, which is very good, you would have heard like half an hour ago or whatever. Music is so ubiquitous, you almost definitely have heard a song within the last 2 hours, or will within the next 2 hours. That's just a near statistical
Oh,
guarantee.
really?
most definitely. I will do that on purpose.
Even avoiding it, there's either a car going past playing a song, or a shop, or a TV,
Or a ringtone.
or a ringtone.
Pedestrian crossing. Oh, it's quite like
That's my favourite song.
Yeah, yeah.
The latest dubstep
Yeah,
hit.
dude. Fully, yeah. It does just
Yeah.
sound like pedestrian.
I'm pretty sure Skrillex already copyrighted that song, so he's like suing the NZTA.
Yeah.
Well, similarly to what I was saying before about, inherited traits, is people even think listening to music and having an ear, so to speak, is a inherited trait, because, again, people who could recognize sounds in the bush or whatever, people who are more attuned to sounds and their possible meanings, whether it's a baby crying and they can then, okay, I will go tend to my baby or whatever, and tell the emotion of the baby and by their cry, they're more likely to have babies that survive, and they've passed on their DNA to them. And yeah, that's another theory, is that just being able to be sensitive to sound is an inherited trait, because we've been listening to music and sounds. Arguably, people think it's possibly even before, it's before we had a written language, and possibly even before we had a spoken language.
I'd believe
we could
that.
communicate via either drumming or banging or,
I'd
That
believe
raises a
that.
question, though. Animals also respond to the sounds of their young, but most of animals aren't sensitive to music.
This is a really interesting question, and it's something that's fascinated me for a long time, is that I would love to know what goes through an animal's head when they're hearing music. And I'm going to draw the conversation to the tui and
Yeah.
to birds that mimic, because this is where things get really, really weird and interesting and puzzle the fuck out of me. And that is that birds, they have their set calls, and it's all regional as well. Like a tui from the South Island is going to be singing different stuff, even a few suburbs away.
rolls its R's.
Yeah,
more
yeah.
than-
There's all this. Yeah,
Northern
totally.
bird.
No, it's real. And so, but when you have tuis that are mimicking objects that are from the human realm, like I swear to God, and I'm not joking, this is a real story, and many people have stories like this. I was walking along and I heard a car alarm, and I was like, what car is that coming from? And then I realized it was coming from the tree next to me, and I looked up, and I saw the fucking tui actually doing it. Like, it was literally making a car siren sound. And then thought came to me, it was like, what does the tui think it's saying by mimicking a car alarm sound? And the truth is, it can't be saying anything because it can't know that other tuis are going to hear that and go, oh yeah, Bob's doing this today. Like, the tui is literally, it felt like the tui was just experimenting and like just being exploratory with sound. And that is something that really, I don't know, like, I get kind of airy-fairy about this, but I don't think that we're the only species that experiments with sound.
Oh, definitely not.
We're not the only musical
Cows
creatures.
do respond to some music.
They do, and I can attest to that too, because I grew up rural and I used to sing around cows all the time.
Right.
I fucking love it. They just come right up to you and they just look at you.
I tried it on my dog. I used to always put headphones on my dog. I was like, please, dog. Please, Lentil, will you just like this
Wait,
cool
is your dog
wheeze?
called Lentil?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And she just looked at me with a blank face and tried to get the headphones off. So that was mildly disappointing.
Yeah, so it depends on the animal.
Yeah, funnily enough, though, it's everyone's human instinct to, when you're around a dog, be like, doggy, you're a doggy.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting
Yeah, we
as
talk
well.
high pitched to babies too. Why is that?
Yeah.
Stunts their development.
I mean, there is some merits for talking like high, because it kind of exaggerates the emotional quality of what you're trying to portray, and I think apparently it does help. It's not necessarily a completely like useless thing, but I think it maybe too much of it for too long might be not great. Yeah. Yeah. But that kind of blows my mind, the idea that we're not the only creatures that respond to sounds, whether they're in a musical context or not. So yeah, and whales.
Oh, yeah.
Thing. They do. They do. Man, I reckon dolphins like must have their own like sort of music because they're so intelligent.
Yeah.
I bet they're fucking down there like doing this weird dolphin-y beatbox shit. And they're, like, doing like
Did you hear?
we'll never know, but
Did you ever hear about the loneliest whale in the world?
no, please tell.
There was this one whale, and they all produce certain pitches that mean certain things, and they have a really limited hearing range that can only hear the notes that they make. But there's this one whale that just had a really low voice, and no one else could hear him, so he was just calling out his whole life, and no whales ever responded, and so he had no friends. And
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so unfortunate for him.
yeah, he just spoke the wrong language.
Yeah, had the wrong vocal cords. Poor whale. I've never heard that story. That's amazing.
And on that note, thanks for listening.
Do you think this podcast would be relatable to like the general public? I mean, because I've got a massive audience, so you're going to get all sorts of people. You can't.
And
pick
with
choose.
Chelsea on here, we're going to go viral.
Oh, shut up. Tim, right back at you. Oh my god.
Have you heard of the band Skeeler.bandcamp.com?
No, you haven't. We're in New Zealand.
Well, what I was getting at is like the three of us are all to whatever degree creative in our own respects. I mean, you two are talented musicians and I do the world's best podcast, but do you think
Mate.
there's part of the artistic temperament that makes you more attuned to sad music, or do you think it is literally everyone? Because as I said before, just with that amount of songs hitting the charts, like Adele is a massive artist. I mean, a popular artist.
Well, I think, in my experience, most artists are quite depressed. And
Yes,
with
we're all
that,
really depressed.
with that, all these artists are creating depressing music, sharing these depressing messages.
It's just a downward spiral.
Yeah. I mean, maybe pop music really is indoctrinating the youth into being more sad. I don't know. Are there any studies on whether or not depression is on the rise, or?
That's it. I thought about that, but so what were you going to say?
So I was going to say, I mean, I think depression is, but that's also to do with diagnosis as well. Like, the numbers could have always been that way, but you don't know.
That's what I was just about to say. I reckon you're right on that. Like in the medieval times, no one knew what depression was. You just fucking killed yourself, didn't you? Which is awful, but that's what happened.
Researchers at the University of California studied 500,000 songs released in the UK between 1985 and 2015 and found that in that time span, they concluded pop music has decreased in happiness and increased in sadness. Like,
there you go.
The perceived happiness just in that 30-year span, the trend is more often than not, the average song is sadder. But at the same time, we were talking about tempo and stuff. Things are becoming more danceable and party-like, yet also sadder.
Yeah. Fuck,
Crying on the Dance Floor by Kesha?
Yeah.
No. What's the song called?
I know Murder on the Dance Floor.
No. It's
That's a funny song.
It's Dancing with Tears in My Eyes by Kesha.
That's a sad girl. That's a sad girl song, eh? I guess Pharrell was really going against the grain when he released Happy.
Yeah.
Which also, like, it's a nice song, but fuck, it does not go anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
it just keeps
It's
going.
it's all chorus.
It's all chorus and there's no build. Like, he doesn't even, like, man, what a nice key change would have done for that song, I reckon. Like,
just a key change every 3 bars.
oh, and then we've got Love on Top by Beyonce, bless her. Yeah.
What would I'm Happy or Happy by Pharrell sound like if it was transposed minor?
Well, it would sound like it was in a minor key.
Like, would it sound...
I reckon it would still have a similar effect anyway, don't you? Because it would be
Is
the
the
same
song
tempo.
in a major key?
Or, slowed down or whatever.
I have a feeling it's already in a minor key, but I don't know it very well.
Actually, it is. You're right. It is in a minor key. It's in like the blues, like. But then it resolves. It like goes. And then there's like a. Like it kind of it changes to like a major quality on some of the resolves. So it is. Just going on my memory.
It just sharpens a third every now and then.
Yeah. It just sharpens a third every exactly. Yeah. So technically, it's in a minor key. It starts in a minor key. And so this is that.
So it's a bit of that melancholy gets both major and minor and switches around.
And that
very Nine Inch
pertains-
Nails.
Exactly, and that really reinforces what we were just talking about at the start of the elements being to have a happy song. It needs to have an upbeat tempo and happy lyrics, but it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not the tonality is major or minor, and then vice versa. So it you're right. It is in a minor key. I guess if I was to like put out a musical example of something that illustrates what we were just talking about, there's a really beautiful cover of a Kylie Minogue song that was released in the 80s when she was like really young. Hand on Your Heart, and it's by José González. Well, it's covered by José González, and he does a beautiful, beautiful, very, very melancholy version of it, which very much reinforces the content of the lyrics. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that song, was José González's version. It's really worth checking out. It's super beautiful. But when you check out the original, it's got that same thing that like the Tom Jones has going on. Like the lyrics are desperately sad, but you would never notice because the tempo and the tonality and the kind of like, I guess, the production as well, and the way Kylie Minogue is acting in the video as well, which is hilariously cheesy, and she's very smiley and doing all of this head boppy stuff. Like, it doesn't come off as a sad song at all because of that. And that would be, if you really wanted to kind of like completely understand, I reckon that would be the best example I could think of how tempo and combined with lyrics affects stuff. Fully.
So other than José González, do you have any go-to artists when you're feeling some kind of way you want to throw on? It may
Tim?
be people who have
You put
just...
on my albums. Oh, that's very nice.
I was actually asking you, but I would like to put on your albums as well. He's great, by the way. Check him out. Check out Tim. Please do.
Tim.com.
Yeah. Oh my God, you own that?
No. It's actually owned by Microsoft.
Shit.
Yeah.
God damn it. But like, sad song wise for me, like, I would definitely go for. I love Ravel. Ravel's like sort of like sad, dark stuff is really beautiful. He's a composer from the 1900, 1800s, sometime around there, sometime in the times where they had monocles, is when he was alive. But that and like, oh my God, fucking Nick Drake. Yeah, he's the saddest. In fact, I can't actually listen to him because it's too sad. It's too depressing. Yeah, him. Oh, and maybe Jeff Buckley. Oh, just a bunch of them.
But surely, arguably, Elliott Smith is one of the most depressing artists of all time.
Yeah, him and Nick Drake, I reckon, just go like right up neck and neck.
Right.
In fact, I feel like Nick Drake, for me personally, is even sadder because he's got like that awful backstory as well of just like being very quiet, and he releases this couple of beautiful, very, very sad EPs, and then just like takes a bunch of sleeping pills and then dies, never to be seen again. Like, it's just it's too sad, and his lyrics are very, very like sort of disturbing and weird, and oh man, I love him, and I also just can't do it.
Well, it's crazy because you could almost say similar stories to like Elliott Smith and Jeff Buckley, the other artists we mentioned.
Yes,
like,
they do. They have very, very sad
the
backstories.
tortured artist kind of thing.
People find that shit fascinating as well. I think people are drawn to the drama and the romance of a tortured artist too, and that's what draws them in maybe a little bit as well as the music.
The legacy of someone who dies young and hasn't had time to, like, go Fat Elvis.
Yeah. Oh, rest in peace, Elvis. Yeah.
Do you have any sad artists to recommend that you go to, Tim, when you...
Just my band at nosunrise.bandcamp.com. Thank you. No, I'm kidding.
You listen to your own music and you just, like,
Just
start
cry.
weeping.
Yeah, I always cry when I listen to my own music. Don't know why.
Me too.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for
welcome,
having
yeah.
us. That was fun. That was sad. Sad ass.
That was fun. I guess misery does love company. A study by researchers from both Durham University in the UK and the University of Jyväskylä in Finland of around 2,500 people found there's actually a great big spectrum of responses people have to sad songs. The three main ones being pleasure, comfort, and pain. And a big thing that kept coming up were that these emotions were triggered by memories that the music brought up. The lead researcher of the study said in an interview, "It has previously been known that people experience paradoxical pleasure when engaging with tragic art, but this seems to be more pronounced in those who have a heightened ability to engage with other people's emotions. Conversely, people with low empathy do not report feeling moved after listening to sad music." But basically, morose music doesn't work the same way in everyone. But one thing is clear. There's nothing minor about these chords. Thanks very much again to both of my guest co-hosts for this episode. Links to Tim Law and Chelsea Prastides' respective music is in the description of this episode. This little ditty I'm doing an immense disservice by talking over is, appropriately enough, I've Only Got One Emotion from the debut album of Tim's band No Sunrise. Again, link in the description of this ep. Thanks to John Galliers for the What a Predicament cover art, and Lucas Hogan and Marissa Holder for the theme song. Thanks to Dane Tutty, an Australian-based artist whose collage We Always Love the Sad Songs I took the name of this episode from. He's on Instagram at Dane Tutty. I'm on Instagram too, at Whatacat Productions. Speaking of sadness, What a Predicament is going to take a wee mid-season hiatus. Back with episode 26 in the new year. If you've got any predicaments or issues you'd like What a Predicament to give a cursory once-over, you can email whatacatproductions@gmail.com. Ooh, before we take that break, there's been a development. Sounds like we've arrived at our destination. Aha! Sweet vindication. I was right. It seems like I, or rather the big rock I'm sealed inside, have been taken to a factory for a little bit of manufacturing. I'm on a conveyor belt being slowly moved towards one of those big stampy crushy things. As down as my imminent squishing might make me, it does feel good to know I called it.